Hello everybody and welcome to Outdoor Focus. I'm your host Tim Batts. If you've ever been outside with a camera and wanted to learn to take better pictures of God's creation, then today is the show for you. We take a group of photographers to Southern Illinois on a photo workshop for the camera shop. We concentrate our efforts first at Heron Pond where the scenery is spectacular, and then we go to Mermet Lake for a spectacular sunset photo shoot that you won't want to miss. So you join us. Today's show is going to be exciting. Don't go away.
Outdoor Focus is presented courtesy of these fine sponsors. Hooper's Outdoor Center, Paducah's #1 source for outdoor gear. The Camera Shop, featuring Canon cameras. Paducah Shooter Supply, featuring a complete gun shop, archery shop, and indoor archery range. Richard's Recreation Specialties, featuring Bombardier, the ATV that's tough enough to take you there and back. Shelby's Wheel and Tire, ride with confidence. And by Lodi Kennels, featuring retriever training, all breed obedience training, and boarding for dogs and cats.
Here you go, boys. Here you go. Get the scent. Got the scent? Go find it, boys.
Introducing the award-winning Outlander Max. It can handle extra tough conditions and 1 or 2 riders, thanks to its exclusive convertible seat rack system.
I guess someone's got a long walk back.
Guess so.
Don't get stuck with anything less. Bombardier ATV. Follow no one.
Welcome back to Outdoor Focus. Today we literally get to focus on the outdoors. You get to tag along with us on a photography workshop as we lead a group of photographers on an outdoor nature excursion in Southern Illinois. First we met at Montego's restaurant for some lunch, some classroom instruction, and to look at some slides. And then we head into the field for some field instruction. So let's take a look. Well, as soon as we leave here, the first place we're going to go is about 12 miles out of Metropolis. It won't take very long to get there, but it's Cache River State National Resource Area. And Heron Pond is part of this area that we're going. There's 3 areas in the Cache River National Resource Area. Heron Pond, Wildcat Bluff, and another area I'm not familiar with, but they're kind of spread out a little bit. But where we're going is to concentrate our efforts today on is at Heron Pond, and it's a really nice area back in there. There's no people. It's an area set aside strictly for for wildlife, for it's a natural area, just a complete swampland. But there's a really nice hiking trail that we'll go. There's a parking area that we'll go to first, and it's about a half a mile, real easy gravel trail back to actual Heron Pond. But as you see, much of the area is cypress swampland. There's the Cache River runs right through the middle of it. There's a really nice bridge that crosses, and Thursday the water was really flowing through there like rapidly, and it's really pretty. Lots of photography possibilities there. As you see there, they believe that some trees in this area are believed to be nearly 1,700 years old. There's some huge cypress trees in this area, as well as I believe the oldest living tree in the state of Illinois is in this area as well. Their hiking trails go in and out of this area to all three of the surrounding areas that are part of the Cache River resource area. And so a lot of endangered plants and animals live there. And once we get to the pond, there's a boardwalk that extends out into the swamp that goes out in there and literally gets you out into the pond, and you just really become part of it. I mean, you don't get an opportunity to be out in the middle of a place like this very often without the aid of this boardwalk, and so that really makes it nice. It's really pretty out there. In the summer, the wild roses bloom all along the boardwalk and everything, and it's just really gorgeous. Here's some of the things that we might expect to photograph at Heron Pond. Of course, lots of turtles and amphibians and lots of bugs and critters. Lots of these. Cottonmouth. I do urge you to kind of watch your step today. I mean, this actual photograph here was taken at Heron Pond. I was laying down with Sam and Nancy photographing some wildflowers, and it was about this time of year, and it was still fairly cool. And Sam goes, "Oh, well, look at that." Then I looked over, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And he was just laying there by a log, and I'd been laying about from him. But luckily, he was still, pretty docile, and because of the cool temperatures. But, as Sam uncovered him from his warm bed of leaves and everything, he did kind of show his mouth a little bit there. And of course, then I backed way up, got out a big lens and zoomed in instead of being so close. But here's some wildflowers that you might see. Like we talked about, Sherry, the background is something you really got to watch for, and the one on the left isn't extremely pleasing. It's a pink lady slipper. On the right is a trillium. There are lots of trillium about to bloom there right now, and I did find some blooms there a couple of days ago. That's a yellow trillium. What we'll see there mostly is red trillium, which is actually kind of a maroon color. That's what I saw there, but there's white trillium, yellow trillium, red trillium, several different species of that. No, we won't see any alligators, just kidding. Yeah, no alligators in Heron Pond. All right, here's some of the photo tips that we'll talk about when we go to the first place at Cache River. And like we talked about a while ago, if we look for a clean, out-of-focus background, that is the whole key to wildflower photography. And if the wildflower is only this tall, then that means getting way down, because if you shoot down on it, a lot of times the ground is so close to it that the background becomes real distracting, because you got all these sticks and leaves and everything just right there. And so you've basically got a couple of options. You got to get down and shoot up at it so that the background is further away from the flower so that it's gone out of focus, or use flash and set your flash so that the background goes black and that the flower is properly exposed. That's done a lot for publication where they just need to identify the species. Maybe not something you would see in a Birds and Blooms magazine, but for identification purposes, that's another way to do it. I know a lot of people who do it that way, and if you let the flash be your only exposure and do not even take into consideration the sunlight, that's what will happen. The flower will be perfectly exposed, but the background will be black. And we'll do that today. I've got some flash and some macro lens that we can do that and actually see our results right there. So the main thing is watching the light. I mean, you got to watch your light, whether it is flash. Today is a beautiful day, but it's probably not the most ideal situation for wildflower photography. In the shade will be okay, but when you have a bright sunny day in the woods where we're going to be, you got a lot of contrast from sunlight to shadows and so sometimes that can create havoc with your exposure. You may be able to get your flower exposed properly, but if there's some sun hitting right behind there, then that's going to show up as a hot spot or as a really bright, distracting area. So we really got to watch the light. There's a lot of things you can do. You can use reflectors, umbrellas, a bed sheet, a lot of different things to kind of diffuse the light and soften it. But really the best time to photograph wildflowers is a kind of a light, overcast day, like especially after a good rain. because everything's real saturated with color and the water makes that look really nice. You got to watch our exposure. You know, I'm guilty as well. I keep my camera on auto exposure a lot of times and letting the camera do the work, and it does a great job most of the time, but you really got to pay attention because sometimes you might need to compensate that exposure. If you're shooting a white flower and you're zoomed in on it all the way and it's nothing but white flower, you may have to compensate that exposure because the whites will be blown out. There won't be any detail in that. So you kind of got to fool the camera's meter into thinking that it's seeing something that it's really not. In which case you would meter off something that's middle tone, like your camera tries to turn everything to a middle tone or 18% gray. So if you photograph a white flower and don't compensate, it's going to be gray. So you got to point your camera at something that is middle tone, maybe a green leaf or a brown log or something, and something that's in the same light as what you're photographing, and remember that exposure, or lock that exposure in, or turn your camera to manual and remember that exposure, and then photograph your subject, and that way the exposure will be correct. It's nice to use a wide aperture to blur the background. When you're using a macro lens, you can blur the background with using a wide aperture, which would be a low f-stop number, like a f4.0 or 5.6. But a lot of times when you increase magnification with macro lenses, your depth of field, which is controlled by your aperture, becomes much shallower. So if you're photographing a flower that may only be an inch long and you focus right on the stamen, then maybe your depth of field may only be 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch. So I mean, you gotta really turn your aperture up to like f11, f16, f22 to a high number so that your depth of field becomes more. But then your problem is, as that happens, your shutter speed gets so slow. So you've got to have it on a good tripod, and if there's any wind at all with the flower moving, then you would really need to use flash to freeze that. So, you know, close-up photography with wildflowers and things like that can be a little tricky. And right here, like we talked about, use a small aperture for close-ups for maximum depth of field. So you can use a small aperture and still blur the background when using a close-up lens because of the depth of field issue with the high magnification. All right, once we finish at the Cache River National Resource Area at Heron Pond, we're going to head back. We're going to pass Mermet Lake on our way out there, and as we come back into town, we're going to stop at Mermet Lake. We go right by there on the highway. It's only about 5 miles outside of Metropolis, and I love this place. This is a wonderful place. For those of us who live in Paducah, you can zip over here in 30 minutes, or less, 20, 25 minutes. It's so close. You know, just a hop, skip, and a jump across the river. And but I love this place. It's a 2,600 acre conservation area, just like the Heron Pond area. It's a lot of cypress swamps. They do duck hunt here in the winter, and they do close it down sometimes during waterfowl season, during shooting hours, which I think end at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if I understand that correctly. But the lake itself is really big. As you can see, 700 acres of water. Fishing is really popular here. But there's a road built around the entire lake, which makes viewing wildlife really easy. And there is a ton of wildlife at this place. The best advice I can give you about nature photography is something that I've had to learn the hard way. Something you never want to do is try to force an image into your camera. You always want to know enough about the environment or know enough about the subject that you're photographing that your images can just become natural. If you try to force a situation and pre-visualize a picture and try to make it happen, it doesn't always work. A lot of times if you just get out and enjoy the outdoors and enjoy the beautiful scenery, most of the time that's when a picture is going to become real natural, and that's the ones that are usually going to look the best. When we come back, we'll take a look at some more helpful hints that'll hopefully help you become a better outdoor photographer.
Get your dog off to a good start with Lodi Kennels.
Lodi Kennels offers the best in gun dog training, obedience training, and boarding. If you're a hunter, a trained dog is a must, while obedience training makes your pet more of a family member by teaching you how to communicate with your pet. And when you're away from home, you can have the satisfaction of knowing you're boarding your pet in a healthy and beautiful environment. You can trust Lloyd and Sally Moore's 40 years of experience. The only thing you may have to worry about is your dog may never want to leave.
At Shelby's Wheel and Tire, ride with confidence. What we say you can believe when we put you back on the street with confidence. Everybody knows it's true. With confidence, we do more for you. At Shelby's Wheel and Tire, ride with confidence.
The Nature Photography Division of the Camera Shop introduces sporting dog photography.
This is Tim Batts, owner of The Camera Shop. We can photograph your pet in either our indoor or outdoor studio or even the comfort of your pet's home.
The Camera Shop's highly acclaimed animal photographs have been called warm, elegant, and captivating. The professionals at The Camera Shop understand that portraits of your pet are very personal and should be made to last. Contact The Camera Shop today to schedule a unique photo session for your sporting dog.
Hi, I'm Craig Sims with Hooper's Outdoor Center for your outdoor tip. Today we're going to talk a little bit about footwear and the importance of that for outdoor hiking or any other activity. First thing you want to always think about is the sock that you're going to put on your feet initially. You want to choose a sock that is not only padded in the right places and thick enough to give you some extra cushion, but also one that is a wicking sock that will wick your perspiration as you perspire, wick it out to the outside part of the sock, and will keep your feet dry. If your feet are dry, you're less prone to get any blisters. If you're doing what has become really popular in this area in the last few years is trail running, you would choose a shoe like this that is really a beefed up running shoe. It has a lot more tread than a traditional running shoe, and it's a lot more foam, EVA foam in the midsole of it to give you a lot more cushion. Next category really is a lightweight hiking boot that's a little lower cut than a traditional boot. This boot is just like its big brother in the bigger, beefier boots, but it's a lighter weight. It's more of a breathable material, has a lot of cloth mixed into it and some leather mixed in for stability. It has a real solid midsole with a lot of EVA foam, dense foam, which also cushions you as you hike. It also has what is very popular nowadays, a rubber that is called stealth rubber. It is a very sticky, gripping type rubber, which really works well if you're hiking on slick rocks or roots or anything that's a slick surface. Next is a little more of a backpacking specific boot. It is a little heavier than this one, but still not as heavy as some. This boot is made for the backpacker that wants to go 2-3 days out and carry moderate loads. And lastly is a little more of a serious hiking boot, or a serious backpacking boot to be more specific. This boot is made for the guy that wants to backpack for extended periods. He can go for several days out. The guys that thru hike the Appalachian Trail from Maine to Georgia, a lot of them start in this boot right here, and it is a Vask, the Vask hiking boot. It's in this, their top of their line. It also has the big heel in the back with a big lug sole and even a stiffer midsole than the other one. It also has a Gore-Tex, as the other ones. They are all designed to keep your foot dry and supported well in rough and uneven terrain, as well as wet weather. I'm Craig Sims with Hooper's Outdoor Center, your guide to outdoor adventure.
Man, with all this color, fall is a great time to take pictures. But back in the spring, when we took a group of photographers to southern Illinois, we were concentrating our efforts more on spring wildflowers and the early wildlife that was in the area. So let's get back to the show. Some of the things that we might see at Mermet Lake, of course, are a lot of songbirds. The red-winged blackbird were plentiful over there. They leave flooded corn, they leave milo, there's cattails in the shallows, and red-winged blackbirds right now are fixing to start nesting pretty soon, and they are beautiful when you catch them on a sprig of milo or a cattail. And I was able to do that Thursday. I got some pretty neat shots over there Thursday. Lots of bluebirds, and this picture here of the swallow was taken over there as well. There's a picnic area, and they're kind of used to seeing people over there, and there's some good places for bird photography. Of course, lots of blue heron cranes like you see on the left, like Sammy was talking earlier about the one that caught the snake. We'll see a lot of those over there. It's a green heron over on the right, diving in for a fish. But a lot of different water birds and shorebirds, because the lake's kind of deep out in the middle, but it's kind of shallow up in the ends there, so a lot of opportunity for that. A lot of owls. Of course, right now there's a lot of ducks over there, a lot of mallards fixing to start nesting pretty soon. A lot of different species of ducks I saw a couple of days ago. I saw northern shovelers, lots of teal, wood ducks. That's a northern shoveler on the left. Their heads are really green like a mallard. That picture doesn't show as well because of the direction of the sun, but lots of geese, Canadian geese over there are nesting right now, and they are right on the road. With a short zoom lens, we'll be able to get some great shots of geese in the flowers. Of course, lots of wood ducks, like we mentioned. Hopefully, we'll see some of these critters here. There are several bald eagles that use this area. I don't think there are any nesting in this area right now, but there are a lot of bald eagles in this area. And hopefully tonight we'll see a beautiful sunset. In one of the boat landings, we're on the opposite side of the lake as the sun will set. A lot of things we can use as the foreground, cattails, cypress trees, a lot of things like that. And if we have a little bit of cloud cover moving this afternoon, hopefully we'll get a real pretty sunset. I finally made it out to this field to photograph some fall color, and thanks to my Bombardier Outlander Max, it got me out here with no problem. That's one thing I found, that it takes a lot of effort to get back where a lot of the good pictures are, and you got to force yourself to get off the beaten path to get out and enjoy the great places that there are to take pictures. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about helpful hints to improve your outdoor photography. Why has Paducah Shooter Supply been in business for over 20 years? Because their product selection is right on target.
Their prices are right on target, and their service is right on target. No wonder you not only see new customers at Shooter Supply, you see the same customers coming back to Shooters year after year. Visit Shooter Supply and you'll agree, your choice of a sporting goods store is right on target. The next time you need hunting supplies, set your sights on Shooter Supply.
Here you go, boys. Here you go. Get the scent. Got the scent? Go find him, boys.
Introducing the award-winning Outlander Max. It can handle extra tough conditions and one or two riders, thanks to its exclusive convertible seat rack system.
I guess someone's got a long walk back.
Guess so.
Don't get stuck with anything less. Bombardier ATV. Follow no one.
Welcome back to Outdoor Focus. Now let's get back to our nature photography workshop at Heron Pond and Mermet Lake. Some photo tips to remember is when we go to Mermet Lake is to try to, in this area, we'll probably concentrate mostly on wildlife and birds and stuff. There are lots of wildflowers we can stop at any time and do any of that, but you'll probably want to keep your longest lens on your camera as we go in because that's what we're liable to see: deer, turkey, eagles, lots of birds. So use a long lens as you've got. If you've got a good steady tripod, if we do get a chance to get out, we'll definitely want to use that. 90% of all the pictures I take in this place are right out of sea of the truck. Right, as soon as you open that door, whatever it is going to fly off, most likely. Occasionally you can get out to some of the things that are acclimated to seeing people, but if you've got a jacket or something, just lay right over your window and just lay your camera right up on your window, shut your engine off because the vibration of the motor will cause blurry pictures. Always leave my aperture set to a really wide setting, usually 4.0 or 5.6 depending on what lens, but just the lowest number that it'll give you is what you'll want to do for this kind of photography, because that'll give you your fastest shutter speed. When we head to this area, you'll probably want to, if you can, go ahead and put your 200 film in there, your 200 speed film. That'll give you that one extra shutter speed to compensate for any movement, or if the bird takes off, you'll want a little faster shutter speed to freeze it. So use as small of an aperture number as you can get, and watch your shutter speed. If you're hand holding your camera, if you're resting on your window or something, you'll be able to use a little bit slower shutter speed. But if you're hand holding it, just want to watch your shutter speed. Make sure it doesn't drop too slow. A day like today, as pretty as it is, we should have pretty good shutter speeds most of the day. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show, and hopefully you picked up a photo tip or two that'll help you focus on the outdoors. As for me, I'm going to hop on this Bombardier four-wheeler and go do some nature photography of my own. I'm Tim Batts. Join us again next week right here on Outdoor Focus.
Outdoor Focus is presented courtesy of these fine sponsors: Hooper's Outdoor Center, Paducah's #1 source for outdoor gear; The Camera Shop, featuring Canon cameras; Paducah Shooter Supply, featuring a complete gun shop, archery shop, and indoor archery range; Richard's Recreation Specialties, featuring Bombardier, the ATV that's tough enough to take you there and back; Shelby's Wheel and Tire, ride with confidence; and by Lodi Kennels, featuring retriever training, all breed obedience training, and boarding for dogs and cats.